All right, here we are with my friend Scott Grossberg. Too late to say Happy Christmas? I don't know.
It's never too late to say
It's
Happy
never too
Christmas,
late.
Anthony. It's never
All
too
right.
late.
And I hear you've
And
got a
Happy New Year coming up.
Happy New Year and a particularly Happy New Year because you have a party planned. Is that right?
We do. My wife and I were married on New Year's. Easy for me to remember. And every year we have a themed party. So I mentioned this before because when we've seen each other live, your
Yeah.
dad and I have joked about the whole Batman concept and the fact that I've got, as he calls it, the car.
Yeah.
And
And the number plate.
and the number plate, yeah. And I was very fortunate to get that number plate number of years ago. And we're not going to tell everybody who it is because I'm not what it
Yeah, yeah,
is,
yeah.
but it's very Batman centric, and
Yeah.
it goes on this particular car. And so this year we're actually doing a superhero theme, and
That's easy for you.
all, which is scary in and of itself that it's easy for me. And so everybody's coming to Wayne Manor this year for our anniversary, and it'll be a lot of fun.
Great.
A lot
Great.
of adults playing dress up. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And
Lot
what
of
happens
spandex and Max.
exactly? And what happens to adults when they put on a mask? You know more about that than anyone else.
Well, now you're getting personal. There are rules for this party, by the way, and that's nobody is allowed to make fun of anybody eating while they're in a mask. So
Good. Okay. Great stuff. Great stuff. So we haven't had a catch up in a while.
yeah,
We're early stages, perhaps planning something special again. We had some fun with the mosque.
yep, we did.
Something that I'm still, which is for those of you that don't know, Scott's written some wonderful books. One of which is called The Mask of Tarot, and although I rarely engage with tarot cards, the concept in the book is very dear to me, and has been one that I've applied in lots of different ways, but on creative projects. And some of you perhaps been through it who are listening in my iLab group, where it's really just an exploration of the range of your
Yeah.
personality, I guess, and how you might express yourself. So that was certainly a bit of fun. But what I'd love to talk about is pivot play, because I understand you're about to kick off a new round of pivot play. So for those
Um,
watching, what is pivot play?
well, Pivot Play started literally at the beginning of COVID. It grew out of COVID,
Mhm.
and I made a career change. I've got 40 years of practicing law here in the United States, both as a trial lawyer and a business lawyer, and decided to step away from that and pursue my loves, one of them being hypnosis, the second being magic, and just creative writing stuff. And then COVID hit, literally, as we moved to a new home,
That's
moved to
right.
a new
Yeah.
location, COVID hit, and I went, just imagine those of you in the listening audience, I went from 200 speaking gigs a year to 0 in 3 days.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
imagine what that does to your lifestyle
Yes.
change and your outlook. And it became very apparent to me that, it's one thing to be an attorney, a lawyer, and a business coach. It's another thing to suddenly want to pursue your passion and have this heart-based business, be creative, and suddenly have it all the functionality of it stripped away from you. There's no
Yes.
live events anymore.
Yeah.
And so I pivoted. I created this for myself, a system that allowed me to brand market. I'm I'm a very visual guy, not a pretty visual guy. I'm a very
Mm.
visual guy. It's in fact how I do my hypnosis. I visualize it with the client, and created this thing. And it was like, this is actually something good that others could use. Started doing some minimal one-on-one coaching. And it became pretty apparent that you don't recoup a 200 gig lifestyle with one-on-one coaching. You just don't do it. It's
Yep.
So I then said, how do I position this from one to many? And at the same time, I happened to have been contacted by a friend of mine in the entertainment industry, and perhaps as we go through this, a lot of the people I work with are in the entertainment industry,
Mhm.
actors, magicians, performers, comedians.
Yep.
And somebody got a hold of me in the Hollywood community, and all the stand-up locations were done. Production had stopped, and they wanted to know what to do. And I suggested to them, why don't you start in your particular field a comedy mastermind group? I mean, you've got awards, you've got accolades, you've got these big
Yep.
name people you've worked with that'll give you all these testimonials. Why don't you do this? And I was shocked to get pushback. And it became very apparent to me that Jerry Seinfeld was absolutely correct when he said, at a funeral, more people would rather be in the casket than delivering the eulogy.
Right.
And it was like, are you kidding me? This is what you do for a living. You get up on stage and you talk. You're on TV and you talk. Yeah, but I don't want to run a mastermind and do all this stuff. And I can't do that. That's not me. And
Yeah.
so one thing led to another. I was like, you know what? Let me show you how it's done. And I created Pivot Play. And
Okay.
that was 2.5 years ago.
Great.
And it has gradually grown. And so what Pivot Play is, down and dirty, it
Mhm.
is a way for me to give my techniques, my systems for now, specifically hypnotists, magicians, actors, public speakers, life coaches. These are people that I consider what I call meaning making people. So
Yep.
for example, in your audience, right, we do hypnosis. Our job is to make meaning of whatever the situation is. And then whether we pre-frame or we future pace, we compound, whatever, we're adding meaning so that their critical faculties get bypassed and their brains go, oh, that makes sense. And we make meaning of the whole session for them. And so I only want to work with those people, the creative, the imaginative, et cetera, because they don't know how to run a business. They're afraid
Cool.
to be on video. They're, they couldn't design a logo if their life depended on it. When I talk about brand colors with them and creating a persona, or one of the things we're going to talk about next year is creating a brand story, a narrative that makes sense. What's your origin story?
Yeah.
And it's very funny, talking to you and Anthony, I'll make him blush, I think, a little bit. Anthony and Freddie, but Anthony is one of my heroes, and I have trained live with Anthony many years ago. We became friends, and I consider Anthony the Rolls Royce of hypnotists, and using that term.
Make it stop. Make it stop.
And that's a particular brand. I remember when Anthony was wearing the hypnotist button, right? And I don't know if you still even talk about that. But that's a branding thing, right? You show up at a party and do strolling or walk around, you have the hypnotist. People want to know more.
Yeah.
And what I'd love to do is work with people in 2023 and teach them how to think of their businesses as a luxury brand,
Mhm.
and not a commodity. And I've said this in Pivot Play, Anthony, this because you're a member of it, but it's one thing to go through JHA. I've been there.
Yep.
I've gone through the same training, folks, that you have.
Mhm.
It's one thing to have that. It's another thing to differentiate yourself in the business world so that you're not a commodity. If you're a commodity, and this is true of actors and magicians and
Mhm.
jugglers and stand-up comedians, if you are a commodity, you will always argue about price with people. If
Right.
you're a luxury brand, the Rolls Royce of hypnotists, and there are plenty of folks in the UK, for example, go look them up on the website. We don't have to even use their name. And
Yeah.
they proclaim they are Britain's leading
Something or
hypnotist,
other.
or
Yep.
they're the world's, or they're celebrity hypnotist.
Yeah.
Right? That's self-proclaimed. We all know that, right?
Mhm.
But they had enough confidence to step into that kind of fearless marketing.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the concept in a very long way of Pivot Play, but I needed to explain it because, I think a lot of people are still of that mindset. If we build it, they will come. It doesn't work that way in the
Yep.
business world, in my
Not true.
experience.
It's a great phrase, but unfortunately, it's not true. As many find out when they start their Instagram or start their TikTok and
Yeah.
put out some content. There's more to it than that. There's so many things you said there that resonate with me. Um, one guy that I worked with in the last couple of years, as we were updating our website and stuff like that, spoke about the about page, and I was just like, the about page, like that's I've never really paid any attention to that. It's literally a minimal couple of paragraphs of text. And he was like, no, this is the brand story. Trust me,
That's right.
most people, even if they forget about it, go there. They go onto your website and they do look at it. And yeah, we don't want it, being an obvious in your face sales page. But if you actually give me a story and tell me where you were at when you started learning hypnosis or whatever it is that you happen to be doing, then I know you've been there. I know I sense your humanity and I know that you're going to relate and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, brand story, origin story is
People do, my experience is that
yeah,
people do work. They want to buy your product, your service.
yeah,
They want to do that with people they like. They want to do it with people that are like them.
yeah,
And so, the about page for me, if you go to my about page, for
yeah,
example, it's, by the way, it's thinkingmagically.com. You just go to the about page.
yeah,
You'll see it is a sales page, exactly what Anthony's talking about. And the idea is I'm very sensitive to the fact that people need to understand why they should spend time and money with me.
yeah, yeah,
And nobody needs hypnosis, right? We all as hypnotists think they do, but they don't think they do. And so we've got to break down that barrier that says, oh, I'm put on earth to endure pain. I'm put on earth to endure the anxiety. I'm put on earth to grit through all these challenges. And our jobs as promoters, I'm not about selling. I'm not
yeah,
about anything. Just promote who you are instead of
yeah,
being the best kept secret out there. And the reality is there are ways to promote without being salesy. There are ways
mhm,
to promote and be authentic. And it all starts with your story.
yeah,
Who the hell are you?
yeah,
And I don't think, Anthony, I've even told you this story. When I originally went to JHA, when we were in Las Vegas together,
mhm,
by the way, back then it wasn't JHA. It has now morphed into that. I've
yeah,
watched Anthony and Freddie rebrand and pivot their own business, and
yeah,
it's been brilliant. Um, one of the challenges that I brought to the table, the reason I call myself the fearless lifestyle coach, is because I know fear intimately. I'm the little kid that used to hide under the bed and was afraid of the dark. Literally, I did not feel like I belonged here and that the rest of the world was going about its way. And I was the one that was out of place and I was the
mhm,
one that was weird. It wasn't until I got into hypnosis, magic, and acting and directing that I learned you can script out of that.
right,
And so, for those of you listening who are introverts, for example, right, you can act as an extrovert. You can still be an introvert. And for most of you who are extroverts, you can learn to script into your greatness because there's always something holding you back. It's usually fear-based.
yep,
And so I've got this whole superhero narratives, this origin story that's like, I was afraid of the dark. I'd hide under the bed. I wouldn't go to grocery stores. I wouldn't talk to people. And it
yeah,
wasn't until I got into all these other things that I realized, my God, I can actually take control of the situation. And if I can do it, you can do it.
yeah.
And that's where the systems come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've mentioned fear or fears with regards to that. We've been asking some questions around that in the last 6 or 7 months, particularly when it comes to visibility. And I know there's some skills to be acquired here, but the world has kind of moved the video.
Yeah.
So I've just been asking the question: who would be happy to jump on video, get on a live, promote their business this way, and at least 50% of any room that I'm standing in is not, and probably some of those that are left aren't happy to put their hand up because that would also make them a little bit visible. But when asked why, there's a handful of reasons. I guess the big two are one, thinking about some group of people who they imagine might be watching. These are often people they haven't seen in 30 years, like their old school friends or the people they used to work with. And another is just that that's not me putting myself out there like
Right.
that. People might think, who does he think he is? Or again, it's mostly imagination. We're projecting and mind reading, what it is that we think other people might be thinking if they've even got the time to take a look. But overcoming it it can be done. It can absolutely be done, and you can still be yourself. You can be a version of yourself when
You
you
know,
look into one of these things.
it all, I think you and I will both agree, it all comes down to modeling. Number one, it's knowing what you want. Now, am I allowed, I should have asked you this before we started, can I use bad language?
You can. I haven't set up my beeper yet, but if it gets too much, then I'll bring in the robots.
Well, I'm going to use one. Never mind. I
Bad
won't use
language.
the
I'm
word.
incredibly foul-mouthed, not when I'm around you, Scott, but of course. I
Well,
swear.
the reason I say that is you don't have to like the guy. You don't have to follow him, whatever. But I will tell you, from a business modeling standpoint,
Yep.
I love Gordon Ramsay when you realize how many people he employs, how many businesses he runs, how many TV shows he has. This is a
Yep.
man kind of like Ryan Seacrest that is constantly out there doing stuff.
Yep.
And I remember vividly reading an article where the reporter's going through doing all those things, and Gordon Ramsay stopped him and said, "Why are you asking me all these things? I'm the real fucking deal."
Mm.
And the whole tone of the interview changed to, "Oh my God, this is the guy."
Yeah.
And when I talk about Anthony being the Rolls Royce of hypnotists, I'm not, those aren't platitudes. That is, I've been around a lot of people. I've been trained by some of the best in the world, personally trained by some of the best in the world. And Anthony is at the top for me. I've said this from the beginning. Frankly, sounds like a testimonial.
Thank you.
Anthony and Freddie's training literally changed my whole approach to what I do. Literally, more than anything else. And I've been trained by Tony Robbins personally, by the way. And even measured against Tony Robbins, I'd take Anthony and Freddie. And so with that in mind, it's like, that's great, but how do Anthony and Freddie leverage that into being a hypnosis empire, right? Well,
Sure.
you can't become a hypnosis empire in today's world without doing what we're doing right now. You have to put yourself out there and let people know that you're available, and value, right? There's a perceived value to what you bring as a hypnotist or coach or consultant, and how, there are all kinds of hybrids. I've told Anthony before that in Pivot Play, we have a large number of people who are JHA graduates. So we kind of all talk the same language when it comes to hypnosis.
Yep.
And yet we've had the same training. I get the same pushback you get, Anthony. Well, that's not proper to do that, and it's not polite to do that. And I need to, who am I to put myself out as the hypnotist, not a hypnotist, the hypnotist. I can call myself a hypnotist, but oh my
Yeah.
God, to put the in front of it. And and so we've modeled during the group over the past year, as a matter of fact, some of the people, their competitors, right? Your competitors are
Sure.
out doing exactly what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
What's holding you back from doing it? And it all comes down to, most people have either been held back as children. I don't want to get into a therapy session, but they've got this generational, epigenerational, or, mom has made
Yeah.
me invisible thing, or it becomes societal. And I've got a few people in the group right now who are actually Russian, and the system has told them they're not special. And so it's overcoming that from a business standpoint to say, hey, I deserve this. I can ask for no more. I deserve no less. Help me do that. And so we've now got people out there doing videos that weren't doing it before, and
Mhm.
people changing, even thinking about color schemes,
Mhm.
right? And we talk about Apple and Steve Jobs spending so long picking Apple White. Most of us think, what the hell is
Yep.
Apple White? Well, there's an Apple White.
Yeah.
My brand colors, if you're watching this on
Mhm.
video, you'll notice my brand colors emulate some of what Sir Richard Branson does. And Richard Branson's one of my heroes.
Yep.
And I've studied him intimately. Well, I want that lust red that they use with Virgin Atlantic. So there it is under my part of my logo.
Wonderful.
And, you know, the other thing, and I learned this uh, over a period of about 3 years working with Apple, the fruit
Mhm.
company, that little company,
Yep.
the wealthiest company in the world. I was a brand for them, having written a book on technology and then a second book, and Apple picked up on it and asked me to come to do their briefing centers around the world for them.
Mhm.
I became the face of business and translating for customers what the hell this means in the real world. I mean, if nothing else, that's what pivot play is. It's making things practical, not theoretical.
Yep.
And so my job for almost 3 years was going to briefing centers for Apple, demonstrating how I use them in the courtroom and with business clients and to run my own businesses and make it simple and succinct in a way that was actually easy to implement. In the process of doing that, I discovered what being a brand is like,
Right.
because suddenly Apple's got pictures of me, and I'm not doing this to brag. It's just, I realized what being a brand is. There were pictures of me on
Yep.
their website. You'd walk into the store and there was a frickin' banner with my picture on it. It was very weird, right?
Yep.
And then, by the way, just so you folks know, I always kept for a long time, right? Here's the scared Scott stuff. I did what you guys are all doing. I didn't let anybody know I was a businessman in one life, and then I was a magician and hypnotist in another, and I never mixed the two.
Yep.
I dabbled, right?
Mhm.
I showed up in San Francisco at the Apple flagship store. Walk in, grand staircase. There's a picture of me in the frickin' front of the store, and then hanging from the ceiling. And it's like, I'm ready to go in and do my technology and business. And got up to the top of the stairs, and one of the head people at Apple pulled me aside and said, "Can I ask you a question?" I went, "Sure." He said, "Are you the magician hypnotist guy?" My heart stopped
Right.
because I had been found out and there was no place to hide.
Mhm.
And it was at that point I just said yes. And he said, "Oh, this is wonderful. Would you do a show for us after the session?"
Mhm.
Now, think about that with your audience, right? Most of you, 50% of you, are telling Anthony you wouldn't stand up and do it. I said, "Yes, sure." I wound up doing a half-hour gig after at Apple. And it changed everything, because suddenly I was able to step into what I like to say, who are you pretending not to be?
Right.
I finally stopped having two different lives and finally said, you know what? Here's who I am. Here's my tribe. Part of pivot play is helping people get their niches down.
Yep.
I know everybody can use a hypnotist. I took the bar exam under hypnosis. I
Mhm.
know the power that hypnosis can bring, not only to relaxing you and calming you and eliminating anxiety, but helping you with memory recall. I know that personally. I know everybody could benefit from it. I know everybody should be learning this in school so that they become better students, but I'm not out pushing it.
Yeah.
It's not my niche. I can help people with it. Pain management. I know the Aero technique. I know all of this
Yeah, and
stuff.
their niche doesn't need to be led by the word hypnosis. It's okay for it to
Exactly.
be it's okay for that to be a tool in the box, and
Exactly. And so that,
so
again, there are a lot of competitors out there doing this. The
yeah,
point is, one of the big things, if people don't take anything else away from our conversation
yeah,
today, it's, who is your tribe? Who do you want to work with?
yep,
Instead of saying, I'll take any client at all because I need the money,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's a killer.
yeah. No, it's made a huge difference to myself and, to the business I run with my dad. Um, Wonderful. There's so many things I want to ask you about, but one before we go, 'cause you brought up the magic now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I know, you've got a long history in that inner circle there in the Magic Castle, but you got the opportunity to perform there. Was it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something?
No, it was a 28 show, 7 night run, four
Wow.
shows a night. So I want you to imagine, for those of you that don't
Yeah.
know, if you go to Las Vegas, most performers up there, it's 2 shows a night.
Right.
This was 4 shows a night.
Right. In the
And it
Magic
was
Castle, which is like the epicenter of all things magic in the US.
in the US, right?
Yeah.
So there's the
Yeah.
Magic Circle in
Yeah.
London, which I just had the opportunity. I was just asked to join them. But the Magic Castle is a physical uh, entertainment venue, for lack of a better way.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting. I wound up getting a featured spot there and got to meet a ton of great people. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of fun.
I loved your reports, and the credit you gave to everyone, like at every stage of your journey through the Magic Castle. It was like
D-
just
d-
so
You know,
smooth.
I think anybody in the entertainment industry will tell you, you don't do this on your own. It's a
Yeah.
support system, and it's who you know, and you everybody was there to help each other. I
Mhm.
had a lot of help. I mean, if nothing else, and Anthony knows my wife, um, if nothing else, I'm getting very excited and getting ready to do this. It almost killed my wife, watching me stress and get everything to where I wanted it performance wise, and
Yeah.
taking time away from the family. And then I went and stayed in Hollywood during that run rather than driving back and forth, so I
Mhm.
could just concentrate on it.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot out of it, Anthony. I actually wound up using a lot of self hypnosis in it,
Yeah.
just to stay calm and centered and focused. And
Brilliant.
um,
Brilliant.
it was a lot of fun.
What a run. Okay, great. So look, Pivot Play, I know that people can jump in any time, but
Yeah,
your new run of this is starting on January the 3rd.
correct.
I'm going to be there. I think UK time, it's 8 o'clock,
6 o'clock. I think it's six
uh,
o'clock.
midday Pacific, right?
It's 10 a.m. Pacific.
Oh, it's 10 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah, just like we're
Okay.
doing right now.
Just like we're doing right now. Okay, so 6 p.m. UK time,
Yeah.
Jan 3rd. I am going to be there for sure. I am going to put this out in our group and to our members. I hope some of you that are watching this, um, you know, uh, feeling what Scott is talking about and recognizing this could be of value. Just tell us a little bit about how it rolls out. Is it every week or every month? Is
So
there
for
contact?
let me just give you the process.
Yeah.
First of all, I invite you. I'm actually doing exactly what I'm telling you not to do in the group.
Yeah.
So it's go to thinking, THINKING, thinkingmagically.com. Scroll down to the bottom of the page. You'll see a little button that says follow your calling while running a business. You can click on that.
Mhm.
Alternatively, you can go to thinkingmagically.com/pivot play.
Right.
Both of them will take you to the same place. You can read about it. It tells you specifically who the group's for, who the group is not for.
Yeah.
It explains that we meet every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which is 6 right now until the time change
Mhm.
again,
Yeah.
6 p.m. UK time, and it's 2 hours. So you're
Okay.
getting me for 2 hours each week. The first hour is me teaching a system, training, going through a PDF that I've created, a worksheet, a workbook, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the second hour is laser coaching, business coaching, where people with immediate problems, we can address those. So give you a quick example. One of the members, who I believe has also been through your training,
Yeah.
is going to be presenting in HypnoThoughts Live next year,
Mhm.
and has never presented a speech before.
Right.
And so in January, I'm actually going to give this person, through Pivot Play, so everybody can watch it, we're going to go through and develop the speech for him, so that he has a system for presenting what it is that he's going to be doing next year. We're going to do it in January, because I think HypnoThoughts is in June or July,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken. So he's got enough time to practice it, and
Yeah.
then that can be pivoted into a TEDx talk or a TED talk, or a 17-minute this or that.
Yeah.
Everything is recorded, and
Okay.
there is a private Facebook group where everybody gets all of the downloads and the recording replays if they can't be there live. It's ongoing. So while we're starting with a new group and existing people on
Yeah.
January 3rd, you can really jump in at any time because all of these are standalone components.
Okay.
You're obviously going to miss some of the stuff from January 3rd if you're not there live, but you get that. And then I guess it is an added benefit. You also, by joining, get all of the downloads and all the videos for the last 2.5 years.
Sure. There's a
It's
ton of
basically
material there.
it's a business course is what
Yeah.
this is.
Absolutely.
And it's literally promoting, marketing, designing, and running a business.
Yep. Another thing I'll just say is that you are great at helping people use often freely available technology,
Yeah.
software, apps, platforms to do so much of the creative stuff themselves. So, if you're like me and, you don't rate yourself as an artist and, you never quite know how to get that logo together, trust me, Scott will enable you to step into that as well. Of course, we can reach out for help and use third party services, but it's just one of the things I've noticed is so much of what you teach allows you to continue to be independent and actually not be too reliant on, you know, um, just other services and
Well, that's, it again, from a business standpoint, the whole concept, unless you're a hobbyist, right?
yeah.
Unless you're that, the idea is to make money at your business.
Mhm.
If you make money at your business, you don't want to be giving it away as a business expense.
Mhm.
So I'm not the guy that's going to tell you go take out Facebook ads. We don't even discuss those. Unless you're making $10,000 or 10,000 pounds a month, I don't even want to talk about Facebook ads with you
Yeah.
because it's, I think, a waste of your money at that point. So the idea here, as Anthony's saying, is to give you a bunch of tools so that I can either do it with you through Pivot Play, or you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
I learned all that. That's how I got the Apple gig. Was I took all of their apps and learned how to use them better and different
Yeah.
and in more unique ways that I had guys in Cupertino saying, "What do you mean you're using this app to do that?" I went, "Because that's how it works."
Yeah.
See, they develop this stuff, they just don't use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm using this stuff to run businesses. And, I know what it's like for how scary it is, right? I've got a JHA, I'm certified hypnotherapist, or I love the term now because here in the United States, we really should be calling ourselves consulting hypnotist for legal reasons
Yeah.
and insurance reasons. So I'm now a consulting hypnotist. And I know how scary that can be because it's like, great, I've got the certification. Now what? And it's an education process, and there are ways, I mean, this, Anthony, there are ways to promote yourself. You, even if you call yourself a hypnotist, there are still these visions of movies where it's like you're taking over their mind and you're putting them to sleep. And I'm here in California, just a few hours away from Las Vegas. I got to deal with stage hypnotists and that whole
Yeah, absolutely.
reputation.
Yeah, there's some scenes out there on those Las Vegas stages. Let's face it. Wow, that was great. I'm looking forward to seeing you on January the 3rd at 6
Thank you.
p.m. GMT and seeing who else is there. I know you always gather interesting people around you, so there'll be a lot of sharing and camaraderie in the group, I am sure. But thank you. Thanks for taking the time on, well, special week, isn't it? Let's catch up again soon. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Anthony.
My pleasure.
Be
Cheers.
well.